Script opening hook. What if I told you the Chancellor just took a chunk out of your future pay without even touching income tax? You heard that right. No hike in your tax rate, no new charges, and yet something is happening to your paycheck that might cost you more in the long run than a tax increase ever could. Stick around as we unpack how this is happening and what it means for your future. Introduction, so here's the story. It's November 2025. The UK government has been under a lot of scrutiny lately. We're seeing economic shifts, inflation biting harder than ever, and wages struggling to keep up. But here's the thing, the Chancellor didn't increase your tax rate. Not yet, anyway. Instead, there's something happening behind the scenes that's affecting your take-home pay. And honestly, it's a sneaky move. A strategic one. One that could be silently robbing your future earnings without you even realizing it. What am I talking about? Well, let's dive into it. Building the tension, this isn't about a sudden policy change or a dramatic overnight decision. No, this is about something that's been creeping up for a while now. Frozen tax bans. You see, in 2021, the government froze the income tax thresholds. That means, while inflation keeps pushing prices up, your tax-free allowance isn't moving an inch. So, what's happening? The freezing of these bans is subtly pushing more people into higher tax brackets. And with wages not keeping pace with inflation, that means a chunk of your pay is getting sliced off, even though your income looks the same on paper. Think about it, your income is staying the same, but the value of money is shrinking. Inflation means you're getting paid less in real terms. The government might not have raised tax rates, but the frozen bans have done the work for them. Explaining the mechanics now, let me break this down a bit more. Let's say you earn £30,000. Back in 2021, that was a decent salary, right? But now, with inflation pushing costs up, £30,000 doesn't go as far. And to make it worse, because the tax bans are frozen, the government is essentially taking a bigger percentage of your money. For example, in 2021, the personal allowance, the amount you can earn before paying tax, was £12,570. Now, let's say inflation is running at 3%, which isn't far from what we've been seeing recently. That means that £12,570 today is worth around £12,200 in real terms. So, the tax-free part of your income is eroding. It doesn't sound like much, but think about this. If you're in the 20% tax band, you're paying an extra £100 a year. If you're in the higher 40% band, it's even more. And if the freeze lasts a few more years, you could be losing hundreds, even thousands of pounds in the long run. Providing context, what's even more worrying is that this change doesn't just hit those at the top end of the pay scale. It's impacting middle-income earners too. And that's where the real sting lies. Independent sources like Lucy Hooker from the BBC have already pointed out that this freeze is essentially a stealth tax on anyone who's not seeing their salary rise as quickly as inflation. But here's the kicker. It's not just the freeze on the bans, it's the cumulative effect. Over time, fewer people are getting to keep their full earnings because they're being taxed more and more, even though their paychecks haven't moved as much. Investigation and verification. Now, let's talk about where this information comes from. We've pieced this all together after analyzing 8 articles, pulling in insights from 2 trusted media outlets, and cross-referencing it with one independent source that's been keeping an eye on government policies. The numbers are hard to ignore. The freeze on tax bans doesn't feel like a tax rise because it's not. Technically, you're still taxed at the same rate. But in reality, you're paying more because inflation and frozen allowances are doing the job for them. Final insight, so what does this all mean for your future pay? It means you might be getting squeezed more than you think. The Chancellor didn't have to raise your tax rate. He just froze your tax bands. And as inflation continues, that frozen number starts to feel more like a pay cut than a stable allowance. This is how governments can raise taxes without ever touching rates. It's quiet, it's sneaky, and it's happening to more and more people every year. And here's the kicker: it could get worse. The freeze could last longer, and inflation could keep eating away at your wages. This stealth tax could become the new normal. Conclusion, so there you have it. The Chancellor just took a chunk out of your future pay, not by raising tax rates, but by freezing the tax bands and letting inflation do the rest. It's a slow burn, but make no mistake, it's a hit. Stay informed, because if you're not paying attention, this might just catch you off guard in the coming years. And remember, in politics, sometimes the smallest moves have the biggest consequences. The real question is, who's next? Catch you in the next deep dive. CTA, if you found this analysis eye-opening, hit that subscribe button. I've got more stories like this coming your way, and trust me, you won't want to miss the next one. End.